الأصليين, which translates to The Originals, is a 2017 Egyptian film directed by Marwan Hamed. The film explores several themes including surveillance, technology, and midlife crises, but the one which stood out to me the most is the self-domestication of man. The fact that we've become tamed by the very civilization which we've built.
Here's how Asleyeen perfects the art of isolation. The film follows Samir, a middle-aged banker stuck in the monotony of everyday life. He has a wife and 2 teenage kids. He drops them off for school, picks up groceries, goes to work, visits his mum. But through it all, he is profoundly alone. His family kind of hates him, he gets fired from his job, and his mum idolizes a version of himself that he no longer is. Samir is trapped. He's isolated, quite literally. For most of the time when he's on screen with others, the cinematography separates them. For instance, a shallow depth of field is used, distancing Samir from whoever is on screen. Shots are also framed in such a way to either cut people out of frame or make them physically far apart. Bird's eye shots are used quite untraditionally, making Samir seem like he's an insect trapped in a shoebox. The mise-en-scène, the set, often frames Samir, or those he is with, inside a box, trapping them in their own little prisons. In his failure to connect with others, Samir ends up getting lost in daydreams of being on TV, in his room of old newspaper archives, and in repetitive montages of his everyday routine. That is, until he's offered a way out. One night, a mysterious box appears at his door. Samir opens up the box to find a phone that, to his horror, contains footage of private moments from throughout his life. He is left in a puzzled daze until the following night when the phone rings.
Allô? Allô?
أنت مين؟
Samir demands answers, but the mysterious man on the other side offers to meet up instead. Alone in his archive room, Samir reminisces, watching his life unravel in the third-person perspective. I feel like this is when the movie first starts to slip away from reality and drifts into the realm of metaphor. Samir meets with the stranger the next day, and this is when the whole theme of surveillance starts to unravel. The stranger's name is Rushdie. He works with a secret organization called The Originals, and they watch everyone and everything. He wants to recruit Samir because he has the spirit of patriotism or something, but that's not what I'd like to focus on. When Rushdie and Samir are together, the cinematography changes. No blurry or white shots. We see them connect. As a matter of fact, before this, the only connection we've seen Samir experience was with the telemarketer who knew all of Samir's information, and the pizza delivery guy who knew that Samir liked his veggie pizza without carrots, a fact that his own mother fails to remember, yet Rushdie somehow knows. A few days later, Samir messages Rushdie and takes up the job offer. He is guided through a series of mazes until he ends up in the surveillance room. He seems more trapped than ever now, in the center of an all-seeing eye with constant access to everyone, everywhere. Samir is given a single task:
To watch Soraya Galal, a 33-year-old Oxford graduate with a PhD in the trajectory of human civilization. She has no presence on social media, but kept a personal diary on her laptop where she recorded her innermost thoughts. Samir began to listen and was entranced.
Soraya is an enigma. She is everything and its complete opposite. She is chaos, untethered and free. Samir is enthralled and starts to turn his life around. He is no longer lost within his own consciousness, but rather in that of Soraya.
We see him genuinely happy for the first time, not stuck in his TV screen or archive room. He daydreams about Soraya and everything she stands for. Though he knows he's not allowed to contact her,
he makes the decision to break the rules and visits one of her lectures. He is found out by Rushdie and punished for his disobedience. things start to fall apart once more. Samir stalks his family and discovers that his son is a druggie who hates him, his wife fantasizes about leaving, and his daughter is secretly in a relationship. When he tries to confront them with these truths, they just leave. He is right back where he started, all alone. He decides to leave his surveillance room and visits Suraya once more. She lectures about the Blue Lotus, an ancient Egyptian flower which unlocked the door to one's mind and allowed them to travel into their subconsciousness. The plant was ultimately destroyed by the conquering Romans. Samir decides to let Suraya go free, passing her a note to warn her that she is being watched. He gets a phone call from another mysterious stranger telling him that he no longer has to worry about Rushdie. The rabbit hole goes deeper, and it's like the whole movie is about to play all over again. The doorbell rings, but this time there is nothing left for him to follow. He wanders around his empty house, packs his bag, and heads out to the desert. He owns a small plot of land in the oasis, which he had long forgotten about. The phone rings, but he is free, finally free. So, what does this all mean? The film consistently hints that the truth runs deeper than it's made out to be, and ultimately reveals that we aren't really trapped within our culture. We're trapped within the imaginary confines of ourselves. Let me explain, but first a quick crash course in Freudian psychology. Freud hypothesized that the mind was like an iceberg, consisting of three parts: the ego, the superego, and the id. The ego is our conscious mind, where we usually rationalize and make decisions. The superego acts as our moral compass. It guides our ego in making the right decisions and punishes it for making the wrong ones. And last is the id, hidden far within the depths of our subconscious. It is primal and raw. The id is there from the moment we are born. It is free and infantile, but can also be dangerous. Sexual and aggressive impulses stem from the id, which is why the superego is required to keep it in check. Do you see what I'm getting at? Samir is clearly the ego, the control center. Rushdie represents the superego, the policing force and moral compass. He works for an organization whose sole task is surveilling society and keeping it in check. He punishes Samir for stepping out of line, and they always meet in locations which symbolize cultural and religious customs. This leaves us with Suraya, who is clearly the id. She is primal, chaotic, and free. Samir has to dive deep within the maze of his own mind to retrieve her. She is the Blue Lotus, a source of untethered mental freedom, and Rushdie, the conquering Romans. I think that this is Al-Asleen's hidden meaning. If we truly wish to be liberated from the constraints of isolation, perhaps we first need to travel on a journey inwards and reconnect with ourselves. Because more often than not, the walls keeping us captive are mere figments of our imaginations.